One Halloween night in Ohio, a young couple decided to spend a quiet evening at home after putting their infant to bed in the nursery. They set up the baby monitor, as usual, and settled on the couch to watch a horror movie, embracing the spooky atmosphere of the holiday. Around midnight, their relaxation was shattered when they heard a faint, eerie voice coming through the baby monitor. At first it was just a soft whisper, but they could make out the words, "Come closer." They initially dismissed it as radio interference, possibly some passing signal. But the voice returned, louder and more distinct this time, "Come closer, I need you." A chill ran down their spines as they realized this was no ordinary interference. Panicked, they raced to the nursery, expecting the worst. Yet when they opened the door, everything was calm, with their baby sound asleep, undisturbed. Although they searched the house and checked the monitor, they couldn't find an explanation for the voice. The couple struggled to shake the unnerving feeling that lingered, as if they were being watched. From that Halloween night on, they felt an unexplained presence in their home, and the memory of that chilling voice haunted them for years. In 2015, a group of friends in Indiana went trick-or-treating, eagerly collecting candy from every house they visited. When they finally gathered back at home to go through their haul, one of them discovered something unexpected, a small baggie that contained no candy, just a note. The message simply read, "I'm watching you." At first, the group shrugged it off, laughing at what they assumed was a harmless Halloween prank. But when they started retracing their steps, none of them could remember receiving the baggie from any particular house, and they all swore they hadn't seen anyone hand it to them. The more they thought about it, the stranger it seemed. Later that night, just as they were trying to shake off the unsettling incident, one of the friends glanced out his window and froze. A shadowy figure stood at a distance, silently staring at the house. He called for his parents, but by the time they arrived, the figure was gone. The experience left the group unnerved, and they couldn't shake the eerie feeling that someone was still watching them even after Halloween ended. In a quiet town in Texas, there's a local legend about a mysterious figure known as the Man in the Black Suit, who supposedly only appears on Halloween night. According to the story, he stands under an old, flickering streetlight by the park, right before midnight, silent and motionless. If you try to talk to him, he never responds, he simply stares. But the chilling part is what happens afterward. Those who dare to approach him say he follows them home, keeping his distance but never truly disappearing. One Halloween, a teenager named Mark decided to put the legend to the test. With his friends daring him on, he went to the park just before midnight, hoping to catch a glimpse of the figure. As the clock struck 12, Mark claimed he saw a man standing under the streetlight, dressed in a perfectly dark suit. Feeling a surge of fear, Mark turned and ran home, avoiding looking back. But in the weeks that followed, he started to notice something strange. Every so often, he'd catch a glimpse of a shadow out of the corner of his eye or feel as if someone was watching him from a distance. Though he never saw the man clearly again, he swore the feeling of being followed stayed with him long after Halloween had passed, leaving him haunted by the legend he'd once dismissed as just a story. A few years back, a teenage girl in California found herself home alone on Halloween night. Her parents were out at a party, and with trick-or-treaters long gone, she settled in to watch TV. Suddenly, her phone rang, displaying only "unknown number" on the caller ID. Thinking it might be a friend or a prank, she picked up. Instead, she was met with the sound of heavy breathing on the other end, followed by a chilling voice saying, "I'm closer than you think." Terrified, she immediately hung up, but the phone calls continued, each time with the same message and that same ominous breathing. Desperate, she called her parents, who rushed home to check on her. By then, the calls had stopped, and they found no one around the house. But the story didn't end there. Every Halloween since that night, she claims she's received the same call. The caller ID still shows unknown number, and each time, a voice repeats the unsettling words, "I'm closer than you think." Despite changing her phone number, the calls keep coming back on Halloween night, leaving her dreading each October 31st and wondering who, or what, might be behind the haunting message. In the 1960s, in a quiet American town, a young girl named Shelley set out on Halloween night, eagerly going door to door in her neighborhood for candy. But as the night went on, Shelley didn't return home. Her frantic parents alerted the police, and a search party was formed, combing every street, yard, and even nearby woods throughout the night. Despite their best efforts, Shelley was nowhere to be found. Days later, a local resident reported a chilling sighting. They had been walking through the town cemetery when they spotted a little girl who looked like Shelley, standing motionless near a gravestone and gazing into the distance. Her expression was blank, almost otherworldly, and when they tried to approach her, she suddenly vanished without a trace. Over the years, other townspeople have reported seeing Shelley's ghostly figure at the cemetery on Halloween night, standing near that same headstone and looking out as though waiting for something, or someone. Her story has since become a local legend, with some saying they feel an eerie chill each year as Halloween approaches, sensing the presence of a young spirit still searching for her way home. Just before Halloween, a family moved into an old Victorian home, intrigued by its antique charm despite its slightly eerie aura. From the first day, they couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that they were being watched, but they chalked it up to the house's age and unfamiliar creaks. Then Halloween night arrived. As the night deepened, the family realized that every door in the house was mysteriously locked from the inside. This was puzzling since they had deliberately left them open, wanting to make their move easier. Moments later, they began hearing faint, rhythmic footsteps echoing through the empty halls, followed by random knocks on walls and doors. The family huddled together, too terrified to investigate, as the unsettling sounds continued without explanation. By dawn, the house fell silent, as if nothing had ever happened. The next morning, shaken by the inexplicable events, they packed up and left, unwilling to spend another night under that roof. Later, the family learned the chilling history of the house. It had remained empty for nearly 50 years, with former tenants fleeing soon after moving in, citing unexplainable occurrences. The Victorian home has since become notorious in the community, with locals claiming it only wakes up on Halloween night, reliving a haunted history that no one can fully understand. At a Halloween party in a small town, a woman wore an especially creepy mask. Its twisted grin and hollow eyes disturbed anyone who looked too closely. She wore it all evening, refusing to remove it, even after the party ended. As she walked home, still masked, she startled people in the street, and they laughed it off, assuming she was just committed to Halloween fun. But things took a strange turn when she ran into a police officer. The officer, noticing the unsettling mask and her odd behavior, asked her to take it off. When she tried, she found that it wouldn't budge. She yanked at the edges, but it was as if her skin had fused with the material. Concerned, the officer took her to the hospital, where a team of baffled doctors examined her. They attempted to separate the mask from her face, but each tug only caused her excruciating pain, and no amount of intervention could detach it. As the story spread, townsfolk whispered about the woman who was cursed to wear the mask forever. Some say they still see her wandering the town streets every Halloween, the mask now an inseparable part of her, a living urban legend. The chilling tale serves as a reminder of Halloween's darker side, where not every costume comes off once the night is over. One Halloween night, a young girl in a quiet neighborhood found a doll on her doorstep. It looked old, with faded clothes and unsettling glassy eyes, but she thought it might be a forgotten Halloween decoration or a gift left behind by someone. She brought it inside, setting it on a shelf in her room. But the next morning, the doll was gone, only to reappear on the porch. Puzzled, she brought it back inside again, but the strange cycle continued. Each night, the doll returned to the doorstep, always staring straight ahead, its expression eerie and unchanged. After several days, the girl's mother decided enough was enough and threw the doll in the trash far from their home. But the very next morning, there it was again, sitting on the porch as if it had never been thrown away. The family grew increasingly disturbed by the doll's persistence, but nothing they did could make it disappear. Then, strange things began happening in the household. The family members fell ill, and a series of misfortunes plagued them: one car accident, a broken arm, a series of unexplained fevers. Believing the doll was cursed, they contacted a local museum that specialized in oddities and donated it. The museum gladly accepted, labeling it as a cursed item, and the family was finally free of its presence. To this day, the doll sits locked in a glass case in the museum, with a sign that warns visitors not to touch it. Locals say that each Halloween, it seems to move just slightly, as if trying to escape and return to another doorstep, to continue its cycle once more.